Hello, everyone. Welcome again. Today, I'm chatting to another amazing soul, David Peterson, and he's a transformational guide and the host of the podcast, which I love, by the way, SuperNova. So, David, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here from Bali.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm very jealous actually because it's one of the places that I was supposed to relocate to last January, but it all didn't play out with everything that's happening in the world. But I will make my way over there eventually.
Yeah. There's actually nothing can be planned these days. You gotta let life sort of guide you.
Yes, we absolutely learning to go with the flow. That's one thing. To let go of control and to just take it as it comes, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's a wise decision for everybody that's trying to make any sense of life and to I know if you want to know where's the next step in your life, just let it go and focus. I always say focus on the process and not on the outcome.
Yeah, very true. And I think that actually is very difficult for a lot of people because we so hang up on the outcome that we get attached, and it's about the detachment in order to actually manifest. But we might get there in our conversation even.
I hope so.
Yes,
I like it.
Yeah. So first, a little bit about yourself, because you and your family moved to Bali a few years ago already, right? And I think that was a massive change also in terms of making that decision and your inner awakening and in terms for your children. How was that and what made you do that?
Big change is never easy, is what I've come to learn. And but you got to follow the call. It's kind of like an inner call, and then you just have to follow the leading of the heart. And for me, of course, it was a big change because I was in a company with my dad. You know, we had a life there. I was supposed to take over this business, and I was kind of preparing myself for it. But in the process of getting myself deeper into a business in the Netherlands, where we're from, I more and more felt resistance. I was like, this is not really the place where I'm supposed to be. I felt there was just not an alignment with who I was and what I wanted in my life. I mean, and sometimes there's a voice that you cannot ignore anymore. And even though I was trying very hard to live a normal life, and because I was like, well, I have nothing to complain, or I shouldn't have anything to complain. Life is so-called good. But why do I feel like there is something more, to grasp for in life? Because it was very clear that I knew there was more in life. But I kind of settled for the voice in my head that's told me you have to live a normal life. Let's do this, because there was a time in our lives as a family where we would travel more, and we're always kind of on this inner journey. We're always on the spiritual seekers. And from our past experiences, we knew what type of life sort of was possible. But yeah, at some point we have children, life takes over, and then it's like, okay, well, let's just go with it. What kind of choice do you have? But yeah, for me, this sort of inner knowing, this voice became so strong that I couldn't resist it anymore. And I remember one moment I was driving to our company, and I just broke out in tears because I felt like I'm stuck in this life, and I'm not living my true self. I don't feel free to be who I am, and I'm working for these big companies that I don't even feel like I want to be their spokesperson in their communication and marketing. And I just said, okay, if I don't change this, then I know I will become very unhappy. But there was still a voice in my mind that says, well, but you should do this. What do you really want in life? And the thing that really changed for me, this is just my personal experience. Yeah. What really changed for me was that at one point I knew that, okay, I have to allow my desires, because I had repressed my desires for a long time to fit in society in a way. And the repressing of your desires is never a good idea, but you can do it for a while. Yeah. So I did it for a while and it didn't work very well. And then I was like, okay, I think, the allowing desires is risky, because the mind will always tell you, well, what if you cannot meet those desires? What if they're not for you? Maybe you cannot live that life that you want. So repress the desires because it's risky. But at one point I just knew, like, I have to allow for what I feel on the inside and start kind of dreaming again. So I opened the door a little bit, and I knew that the desire to take our kids out of the school system and to travel, it's been there for many, many years. We have traveled in the past, I've seen many countries, and we just felt, I knew this is what I want, but then how to get there, right? So for me, I think if anybody's out there, it really starts, that's how it started with me, with allowing desire from the heart, not just the mind that says, well, I want to, do whatever, but really feeling what you feel. And for me, it came at the low point, the point where I was like, I have no idea how to go on with my life. I'm kind of stuck in this business where I can't get out of, because I feel, you're in it. But it was kind of the turning point for me. Yeah.
I can very relate to that, actually, in everything that you were just sharing. I moved to South Africa myself about 8 years ago, and it was indeed like that inner feeling, just that feeling of like, yeah, there is more, and listening to that voice, and not stepping away of fitting in. I think exactly what you're saying, because society, it can be kind of toxic in order to fit in, because it's so far away from who we actually are.
Yeah, and I'm always very careful to sort of say there was something wrong with society or with having a normal life, whatever that may mean. But I really feel like it's really about tuning into what is my path in life. Like, I had dreams that I couldn't deny. There were signs that I had to allow this new thing that wanted to be birthed in me. It wasn't really about let's move to Indonesia, because really we just started traveling and we ended up in Bali, right? Because life wanted us here. That's how I feel it. But really it was more about, do I allow myself to feel something and then go along with it? It's kind of like you're jumping off a cliff, really, because taking your kids out of school, it's kind of a big deal. To me, it was a very big deal. But yeah, at some point we couldn't not do it, because we knew that the risk of not following was greater, because then we would live a life half-heartedly, right? And half-heartedly living, I was like, that's not what I want anymore. So it's kind of the inevitable next step on the spiritual journey, it feels.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is it also in working with people? Like a lot of people are in their minds, right? Often led also by ego. Ego wants safety, wants the things that we know, that we are familiar with, to that, like, really step into that inner knowing, that voice within, and that heart connection, and lead from there, from a centered, open heart. Like, what can you advise for people to move from that space? That's
Well, I what I believe, or what I discovered within myself, this is all I'm saying, is my truth and my personal experience. It doesn't mean that it's the truth for somebody else, but I feel that it's what we've done in our Western world is basically we cut off play and of what sort of the world of our inner child. So it's all very serious. Life is serious. Life is the responsibilities, and I felt very much like that, like all my responsibilities, and I think the joy is the witness of truth. So to feel joy is really a sign of move forward where the joy is, right? So I think there's a lot of people like myself that are maybe not depressed, but they're not joyful in life. And I wasn't joyful, but it was in the whole process of this choice and the awakening, slowly I started to recover my joy. I found my joy in life again, just life, nothing. I think that's kind of the gift of awakening, is you find joy again, but also it goes up and down, right? So it's not just joy, it's also feeling, whoa, something big is happening, right? You're going through this transformational process. So, but in it is the joy of life. So, I mean, I think anybody that's sort of on this verge of, it's something that you feel inside, whatever it is, but where is the joy? Can you take little steps in life to go towards what makes you joy? I stopped listening to music for a long time. Just in the car. Now music has become a very important part of my life, because it's just music, it's just a feeling of being alive. Getting in touch with your emotions is very important, like feeling again. I mean, in my personal journey, I can say feelings and emotions are, they kind of, I gave them the place that they deserve. The joyful emotions, but also like grief or sorrow or anything. So just feeling again. And you can practice that anywhere you are in life. It's about allowing and being truthful. So for me, that moment that I just shared about my low point, it was really about being honest with myself. Like, wow, if I'm really honest with myself, I know I'm not living my best life. But I know there's something more. I don't know what it is yet, but there is something, and I have to pursue it. If I don't do it, then I'm not being honest with myself. I kind of like dampen myself, and I felt like on the journey that I was in, I couldn't do that anymore.
Yes, yes, and that actually
does that make sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense, and that actually brings us to that point of the duality and embracing all aspects of self, because that's what you're referring to, in being in the joy, but also being in the fear and anxiety and shame and guilt and all these lower frequencies that we also carry within. And I think that can be a steep process to really embrace ourselves in everything, right? And that has a lot to do with the awakening, with the inner awakening.
Yeah, I think the inner awakening, to me, it kind of like was a process, and then it sort of met in my physical journey and my spiritual journey, kind of intertwined. And I feel like it's really, in the end, it always comes back to self-love. And it sounds like a sort of like a vague concept, but in reality, it really is, okay, do I have love for myself and my life enough to pursue kind of my mission, or what you're here to do? This morning I woke up and I was listening to something, and this person said, why are you here? So I thought it was a brilliant question, like, why are you here? And I asked myself this: why am I really here on this earth? Like, it has nothing to do with being some famous person or whatever. It's really about, what is my life really about? And that's a discovery. It's a journey. I mean, I don't have the answer for anybody or myself, but really it's a discovery that you take yourself on this journey.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And in that transformational process that you're guiding people through, you working with both men and women. Do you see a difference in that journey of stepping into your truth and into your purpose, working with both in that way?
Yeah, of course. I think there's a big difference. I mean, of course, I can relate to men better. But men, I think generally, I can only speak for myself, okay, but there's the responsibility and the burden of life if you have a family to, do all that stuff. And for women are generally more in tune with their intuition. So I believe that women are more in tune with their intuition, but that for women, it's really about stepping into their power, right? And for men also, but I think women, yeah, there's something there that women can really, the women that kind of I work with have some oftentimes there's something with like a father issue, or something that's been that they've not been giving, sort of, they didn't have a father or parents that said, wow, you are amazing, you can do what you wish for. They were kind of never good enough, kind of. So I feel like, yeah, that's, everybody has their own process, right? So I can't say this is what it is, but I do feel that for the women that I work with, that's really coming into power. But also having a man, this is important, that there is a man, that there's a screen in between, and that says, I believe in you, right? Because there are so many toxic relationships in the world, and toxic with male-female relationships. And so I believe that we work out our issues in life in relationship, right? So you cannot be sitting alone in your room and meditating and think your childhood trauma is going to be resolved. It would be easy, but really it's in the confrontation with somebody else that shows you the mirror of who you are. And and so basically it's reversing the process of the damage that has been done somewhere, or the conditioning, and then basically reversing the process. And that's, I believe that's where relationships are very important, and not just romantic relationships, but really it can also be a working like a coaching relationship.
Yeah,
Does it make
absolutely.
sense?
Yes, absolutely. I think like for me, like everything is a mirror. So basically your relationships and definitely your partner or your intimate relationships, they are your greatest teacher, same as your children. They are your greatest teacher. But don't you feel that often a lot of people don't want to look at it like that because it can be too uncomfortable to face, and we rather just suppress it instead of like looking ourselves really into the eyes and facing it, because that's where the growth is.
Yeah, well, you have to be ready. Yeah, I think it really has to do with timing. When the timing is right, let's say when the stars align and it's your turn, then you will say yes to life, right? So when you hear the call and you feel like, okay, I'm stuck in some area in my life, then somebody will come along, or there's an opportunity maybe to work with somebody or whatever. Can be anything, but really then you just say yes and you say, okay, I'm going through this process. And but yeah, you're right. It can be very confrontational. I know what it's like to be confronted with basically either what you've been doing that's living not true to who you are, so the discovery of, I call it your true self, really starting to walk in who you are, but also shedding of the old self, right? The shedding of all these layers that you're not. And so coming back to the women, there are some women that I work with right now that are kind of in a relationship that's very challenging for them, but there's always a mirror from the father figure, right? So that's what we do. We just repeat all these cycles and all these patterns. So we have to untangle what's going on, and then it's kind of like rewriting the program. And yeah, that's work. It's not easy.
No, it isn't, but it's a beautiful process. And then you also you speak about inner freedom, right? I think that's something we all long for, that freedom and that sovereignty. How do you guide people in that process to connect to that inner freedom?
Well, I think, good question. How do I do it? I don't know. I let life do it because I work kind of intuitive. And again, I believe it's all about relationship, right? So I believe that you have to know kind of what are my issues, right? If you don't know anything about me and you want to go in a process of inner freedom, yeah, it's a process. You cannot just do it. There's no magic pill to it. There are areas in my life it takes years to work through something, right? And that's the thing with awakening and transformation. It's not like a quick fix. There's not the magic pill to do it, but it's about the allowing what you feel and what your inner knowing is saying. And then at one point, of course, there's going to be maybe some kind of action. Maybe you change your job or your relationship, or, it's always going to have to be translated into like real life. So I kind of work on that. Like let's say there's always an inner process and then there's an outer resolution in life. So those two things have to come together. You cannot just only be like kind of ethereal. It has to be like grounded.
Yes. And what does inner freedom mean to you personally? Because it's different for everyone.
Inner freedom for me is a process where I become more and more comfortable with myself, with everything that I am. And also that I can carry myself, whether it's through good times and bad times, that I'm okay. I'm okay. Whatever life throws at me, and sometimes I'm not okay for a moment, but then that's the process, right? So it's not that I'm always okay. I'm not, like I go up and down. But I know through it, by allowing whatever it is that I go through, you allow kind of life to take over. And then, yes, sometimes you need help or whatever, but really it's about, okay, I'm okay with myself.
Yeah, so it's about that surrendering to what is.
Yeah, I think it's,
yeah. That's
surrendering to what is, but also, okay, surrendering to what is. But let's say if I'm in this car in my company, and I'm like, well, I have to surrender to this, which is also what I did. I tried it long time. But so surrendering to what is doesn't mean that you're going to be complacent and passive and never change anything in your life. Right? So then I feel like I did come to a point where I sort of surrendered to life as it was. And then this desire came and I didn't repress it anymore. Right? So yes, allowing what is right now in my life. There are things that I have to go through, and I allow them, but sometimes you have to also take action. So it's kind of the discernment. I think we need the discernment to know, like, is this the action that I need to take or not?
I hear you. I hear you. Yes, I hear you. I hear you. But I think like, so that, yeah. I'm curious to know, because still many people are like not feeling like really. So there is this disconnect. So if you do not feel what you actually want or how you feel, then yeah, that's of course that's the process to
Okay.
get there.
Okay. So the process of feeling is important. It's in Dutch. I have a podcast with a couple that talk about inner safety, right? So I will give them credit, and you can link them later. But the subject of inner safety, what they talk about, I didn't make it up, but it resonated with me. And so the whole point in relationships, for example, and in transformation, is that you feel safe enough to open up. If you don't feel safe with me, you can never open up, right? So there has to be a sort of, not just trust. I trust you, you trust me, all of that. But then you have to feel inner safety to go do whatever it is that you feel like you need to be doing. And yeah, I think that's a concept that's, to me, it became very important to know in my life. Oh, I did this because I didn't feel safe in myself. For example, I never felt safe in the world. The world was sort of like a hostility for me. So of course I had to travel to overcome my fear of the world, and I had to do all this stuff to find out that I belong on this planet. This is my home, right? But I had to work myself through my unsafety to feeling safe, to basically a feeling of belonging. And I think underneath all these layers that we have in our mind, there's all kinds of layers where we don't feel free or safe, to actually live the life that we are supposed to be living.
Wow, yeah, this so resonates to me, because safety is a big thing for me, and it was in my personal journey, but also in the work that I do. So this makes a lot of sense. And safety is like, especially in your journey, also in order, what you say, in order to open up and to kind of be brave, to do that inner dive deep, safety is the most important thing within yourself, but also the people around you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of research on safety, and I also, in my work, it's part of it, but really inner safety comes from trauma work. Yeah, people that have trauma, there is an unsafety, let's say, any kind of situation. So, but really all of us, see, most people think, well, I don't have trauma, right? But all of us do have trauma, right? All of us do carry all kinds of wounds, and whether you say it's little or not doesn't matter. If you feel something that makes you unsafe and you cannot open up, or you're afraid to live, well, then you have to work on that to liberate yourself. Yeah.
Yes, and what people sometimes forget, what I see, is trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter. We think that we need to measure, but it's a feeling. So something that someone is going through can be like, it's about the feeling that's triggered within. So we should also not measure like, okay, but that one is worse than the other thing, because it's not. We can feel the same by different experiences. We just chose a different lesson to experience certain things in life. At least that's how I feel about it. But yeah, that's also in terms of labels.
To come back to your question about inner freedom, I think I went on a journey because my whole life I wanted to be sort of out of the system, right? So it was kind of a journey of, I want to take my kids out of the school system, because I could see that the school system wasn't bringing them, it wasn't liberating them. And I was busy working, right? So, I mean, I felt like, what's going on in my life? This is really not what I envisioned for my life and for my children. So the journey started with having this like freedom lifestyle, but really on this journey I saw, okay, it's really about my inside. It's really not about traveling. And at one point I was like, I don't care where I am. I really don't. I could be any other place. I'm still going to be happy and live my life. So I think we have to, and that's what I feel it's important, because there are so many people that are looking and searching for another life out there. And I get it. It's important sometimes to change your environment and to change the people. It can be super important. Do it if you feel like you want to do it. but most important is of course the inner work. And when you do that, then life will gradually just change. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. It all starts within. Um, on that, we have our inner awakening and our journeys to reconnecting with self, so to say, and then we have, of course, the outside world, which is very chaotic at the moment, with everything that's unfolding. For me, those two are related, and there's different layers of awakening, right? You have the inner awakening. People wake up just because they had enough, like it's enough suffering. But then also people are awakening because they see, like, okay, like there's a lot going on and it doesn't make any sense anymore, like what the F is happening. So do you see a difference in that, in the work what you are doing? Are people coming to you from that inner space, or also people coming to you like, okay, like I see the world how it is, and that triggered that inner awakening? Because again, there are so many different layers.
I like it. It's a good question. Actually, both. Sometimes people come to me. Actually, last week I talked to a person, and it was really about. It started kind of with, well, kind of escape the system, right? But really, when we went a little bit deeper, there was something inside, right? So for some reason, you cannot skip over your inner work in a way. But I do believe that what's going on in the world is kind of like a huge wake-up call. Only I believe it's really not about waking up to see what's wrong in the world. It's about waking up to who you are, right? Who are you in your essence? And then you have to go on a discovery to find out who you are, right? And what your life is about. So for me, that's really awakening, to awaken to your spiritual essence, to connect with your true nature, your godhood, and also connect to the earth. So it's about nature is important, the earth, grounding, and also your heavenly sort of eternal origin. So that comes back to duality again. But I do believe that the world right now, I mean, it's a huge wake-up call. And we have to believe that it's for our good, even though there are things going on that I would like, okay, I don't like this, right? But I don't focus on it, actually. I stopped doing that. I did for a while and I stopped.
Yeah, same here, same here. And it's a good point what you're saying, that you stop focusing on it, because when we focus on it, it grows. So there is this point in time, I feel, where we should be aware of what's happening, because we should, we all should know, I feel. But then also start to focus on creating the new, and again that dive deep, because that's where the change lays. That's how, when we shift within, the collective and the outside world automatically will shift too, because everything is connected. And I think that's also like where the actualization is coming to be in line with that still point within, right?
Yeah, I think there's two kinds of people. If you're stuck in life and you focus on what's wrong in the world and you fight against it, you're not going to get unstuck by doing that, right? So then you have to bring it back to yourself and just turn off the news, focus on your own healing and on your inner work, and then believe that that's what you need to make your next step in your evolution, right? And then there are people that are maybe called to step out, right? If you're kind of you're on the path and you feel like you have to be a voice for truth or whatever, then go do it, right? But then know that you have to be that person that has to like be a voice and do whatever it is you do. So, but I think most people are kind of in the category of pushing against, and it's just too much about the external world, right? While on the same time they feel kind of stuck in life. So then reverse it. Go work on yourself and your own liberation and turn off the news.
Yeah, and how like what I see a lot is there's a lot of fear, of course, in the collective, but also in people still. There's also a lot of fear to feel. So to do that inner work. So how to overcome that? I mean, that's the question, because that's what we need more, right? For people to step in that truth, in the authenticity, and that dive deep. How do you overcome that fear and really actually take that responsibility for self? Because that's all that we need to do.
I don't know. I think the only thing that comes to my mind right now is you just got to do it. You just have to do it. Yeah. Because fear is like, I'm envisioning that you're bungee jumping off of this cliff. you are afraid because your body, everything, the evolutionary path of a human body says you're not going to jump off a cliff because you're going to kill yourself. Doesn't matter that your mind knows there's a rope around your feet. So you're standing there and nothing in you wants to jump because you're afraid. It's normal. That's just the physiology of the body. But if you want to have this experience and if you want to feel the adrenaline, well, you still have to jump. So you do it. Or somebody pushes you. I was in New Zealand and they push you if you stand there too long. It's funny, yeah, but you still go. So, and then I think you have to believe, this is important, you have to believe that the universe will catch you. But only if you're really certain that you need to jump, right? If you're jumping because your mind tells you need to jump, think again, feel, is this what you really need to do? And then whatever it is that you need to do, go do it.
Yeah, so again,
right?
it's that heart connection. Like it needs to be aligned, whatever you think, or like it needs to be aligned with what you feel in your heart. That's so true. So another thing.
And also,
sorry. No, continue.
Also the signs. You want to be aware of the signs in your life. Like I had dreams, and I couldn't ignore dreams. And I was already on I was on a health path. I was raised in a very religious environment, but I was very devoted to God, basically, as a young man. And of course, I kind of knew there were signs in my life, and I also knew there was more than just going through the motions, right? So I do believe that all of us, your body gives you signs, and life gives you signs, like your feelings. Everybody has feelings. Feelings are just sensations in your body. If you wake up every morning and you feel tension about going to work or anything, then there's maybe something not going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the more aligned you are with yourself and your higher self, your soul, the more signs you will pick up, because there are synchronicities. So you will see it, whereas before you were missing all these things, and then you're just in this flow where everything is unfolding for you in a way.
For me right now, it's like there's a lot of synchronicities in my life. Beautiful. But they came afterwards. They came after sort of the jump, right? Not before. But I had to trust that the path that I was going on, let's say taking my kids out of school, changing my career, letting go of the old. Letting go of the old is very important. If you're not willing to let go of something old, then it's going to be very hard to step into a new life, right? So all of these, it's like an initiation process. So now I see, because I've walked through this process, you have to let go of something old. You cannot say, well, I'm dreaming of this other life, or I'm dreaming of stepping into my power, but you're afraid to let go of what gives you safety. You cannot have both, right? So there is always in the transformation or in the awakening, there's like a trust in, call it God, the universe, your higher being, but it does ask that you trust it. And you can trust it. That's what I want to say. You can trust it, and you have to.
Yes. And I think sometimes we actually maybe need to take it a step further, because that trust needs to become an inner knowing. That you really truly from within start to know that you are guided, that you're safe. May it be like on soul level, or your guides, or God, whatever you put your beliefs in, that you know that everything is unfolding for your highest goods, for yourself, for your family, but also for the collective. Even what's playing out in the field right now, I honestly believe that we need to go through this as humanity, because we need to dissolve all these dense energies, and that's what we are doing.
And it doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect after. My life has still many challenges. I mean, it's not, so it's a continued process of, okay, am I on the path, right? And still trusting every next step that I take is still a step in a feeling, aligning, trusting, and letting go of the outcome. It's still important. Just letting go. It's about living life in the now.
Yes. There you say it. Living life in the now. Beautiful. Yeah, I that resonates. And you also guide people in terms of their purpose and entrepreneurship, right? In terms of business. And I think I love that, because the more you know yourself, the more you step in your purpose, and that will also then reflect in what you do in life, business wise, or how you be in service of humanity in that way. What are the challenges that you see there for people that they are going through? Because it's all related. The inner awakening is related, like you mentioned as well, to your relationships, to your business, to everything, right?
Yeah. I believe that there is a lot of conditioning, that we are all super conditioned to think and do in a certain way. You see it I come from a marketing communication background. So we're all really conditioned to think in a certain way. I never thought that I was going to be sort of an awakening transformational counselor. Like, I never really saw that for myself, but it's basically what happened to me. People came to me, right? And I started off helping people with their marketing, right? And I felt like, and I still help people with their business. I still help them because I love to ground things, right? But it really is comes from within, like, who are you? And I have come to believe and see in my own life and with people I work with that the answers that you need are right in front of you. You don't have to go look out there, really. So they're already in front of you. Only most of us don't see kind of what our life path is about. So in the work that I do, I kind of go into what is your life path until where you are now. And there's a sort of like a thread running through it. And most people don't see it. I didn't see it with myself. But I now see from where I was as a child, how I grew up, my specific background, that everything kind of aligns for me. But there were parts of me that I had rejected. So I said, well, I'm not, I kind of ashamed of this part of my upbringing. So I kind of, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to, people are going to think I'm crazy, or, I'm not normal like everybody else. So I had to sort of work through my own shame around my religious upbringing and my own sort of, I was always very devoted to God, for example. I was reading I knew the Bible by heart almost, right? So it's kind of in an awakening process, everything has to be shattered, right? So I basically left all of that religion, but now in a new way it's coming, I'm incorporating everything that I went through in my life because there's a lot of wisdom, right? But I'm also using the spiritual traditions and everything else. So I think that some people are looking for some resolution somewhere really outside of their own being, but we are all on a path, and you have to believe that even if you feel stuck right now, everything up to this point is part of who you are, and it's also part of what will bring you your next step. So we don't want to disown parts of ourselves. We just want to incorporate them. We want to say, okay, maybe you're traumatized, whatever it is that you have in your life, but you want to kind of bring it in and bring it into yourself as a part of who you are and what you've become. And then it's something beautiful can unfold, and we can all partake in the awakening of mankind.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a personal question, so I also just say if you don't want to answer it, but in terms of God, right? I also been brought up like well, Catholic in that way, but like for me, what I learned through my whole journey and the spiritual journey is that one of the biggest illusions that they made us believe that we are separate of God or anyone else. Because at the end of the day, I'm the goddess, you the gods. And it's that we make someone else, we put other people or a god on a pedestal. That's where we completely went wrong in a way, because we are all that and even more. I just like, do you feel the same, or how is that for you?
Okay, I like it. I like the question. I totally hear you. And yes, I would say yes and no. Because I would say last week I was going on a spiritual journey in Bali with somebody else, and we visited a healer. She is a very beautiful woman. She said, "You are a little god. You are a little god." Right? It's like the guy in the Groundhog Day movie. What's his name? And he's like, a god. I'm not the god, but I'm a god. And maybe we are the god together. We are God in the flesh. Whatever you want to call it. I think we lost our connection. No, we didn't. But yes, of course, we are creators, and we are continually creating our life. That's what we do. We are creating all the time. But of course, we forgot who we were. But for me right now, where I am, this is my personal, I feel we are both. Yeah, we are God and man. It's basically, we are Jesus. We are Jesus. You're God and you're human. So we have to embrace our godliness, our godhood, and our humanity. So when our humanity and our godhood comes together, then you find a place of how to live on the planet, I believe. And some people are losing themselves in being human, like they totally don't know anything about their eternal self. And some of us, myself included, have lost ourselves in just the eternal sort of spiritual, all of that. So we have work to do. We all have work to do into embracing our humanity and also embracing our divinity. That's my perspective.
Yeah, so again, it's about that balance between your human aspects and your infinite being, same as your feminine and your masculine energy. Everything needs to be.
But I wouldn't call it balance. I would just call it's both. It's not like balance is like you have scales, but I would say, okay, you are actually like entwined. It's like you're God and you're human, and it's one thing. But yeah, there is the self-realization is for me, it was really a process. For me, embracing my humanity was the bigger deal. Not that I'm divinity. I had experience that I was like with God in a way. But embracing being human is difficult for a lot of people, because being human is sometimes painful, right? You get stuck being human. And but being too, that is balance. How deep are you going into being human, and how high are you going to be in your godhood? So the balance is maybe trying to find a place of empowerment in the middle.
Yeah, being like of a place of being, and then that being is both.
Yeah,
maybe that's like but interesting.
I mean, I thought about this a lot because I was raised as a Christian, right? And I was baptized as an adult. I mean, for people that know, I was in the charismatic world and I had all kinds of experiences with God, but I was also stuck there. And then I had to get out because there were so many things that were in the theology were not right for me. But then I started to look deeper within some of the text in the Bible, and I felt, okay, there's actually truth there, but it's been diluted by religion. So like any other religion in the world, we have to go look deeper to find the gold. Jesus said it, you are God's, right? And so yeah, I do feel that there's a sweet spot in knowing that I'm human and embracing all of it that is being me, the good and the good, the bad, the ugly, basically.
Yes, and you just mentioned like it was actually more difficult to embrace that you're human, right? What is that for you? That part of being human?
I think for me, feeling very unsafe in the world because of this upbringing, being human means a pain, physical pain. It can mean mental pain. It can mean emotional pain. It can mean that life is not perfect, right? For me, striving in a life where I wanted to do everything right, as a good Christian, being raised as a good Christian, you want to do it right, kind of for God or whatever, right? So letting go of the pictures of what we have about how to live life. Life is messy sometimes, right? So that's embracing your humanity. So it's also embracing that brokenness is a part of life as well. And not always trying to find resolution. Like we want to fix things so badly. You see it with the corona, the politicians, and of course the people that sell vaccines, they want to fix the world. And part of being human is some things are not to be fixed. You have to just live with it sometimes. It's kind of an obsession that we have. Yeah.
So it's the allowing, and what I find very beautiful that you pointed out a few times in our chat is that letting go part, really letting go of the old in order to also step into the new or allow the new in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a massive thing that we are facing now in the collective. So also us all as individuals really shedding, purging so much. And that's letting go.
Yeah. I think letting go of your old beliefs, people talk a lot about like mindset, but really it's about letting go of the self, of your idea about what it means to be you. Like I had moments where I thought, okay, David, I have to let go of this, what I had thought that I was, but I'm not that. Like the definitions of who you are as a human being that's my experience, yeah, that there is a shedding of the old self, which is also very biblical. It's also very Hindu. I mean, in all religions, we have to let go of the old self or the ego, whatever you want to call it. But really, those are just ideas that we have about ourselves and about somebody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. We almost like at the end of our beautiful chat. There's one more thing that I just want to ask you, because I feel a lot of people maybe struggling with that or seeing this now, that's something that you did with your family, and that's pulling your kids out of the system, right? Yeah. And a lot of people feel more and more the calling to do so too. And I think it's so important. I think it's wonderful what you guys did. What's your advice for the people now waking up to this and feeling that inner calling, like, okay, I want to do this, but I do not know how, but I can't keep doing this anymore because it's not serving me and I feel it's not okay.
I mean, it's a very difficult question to answer, but it's also very easy. You have to follow your intuition. You have to trust. If you believe you're on this path and you need to take that step, then you need to believe that there's a way coming, that it's possible for you, and maybe you need some help, right? I mean, but really, I mean, for me, it was part of my spiritual journey. I mean, and there was a time I said, hey, if you want to, you know, take your kids out of school, I'm going to help you do it. But I don't feel that's my calling to do. But I do feel that I want to say that if you are on the path and you feel like that's what you have to do, then trust that there's a way to do it, because it is possible. That's maybe the only thing you need to know. It's possible to do it. It might seem like miles away. I was there once. I thought, how the frick am I going to do this? But we did it, right? We did it. And so basically it's very easy. You take your kids out of school, you get on an airplane and you go somewhere else. That's very simply oversimplified. But really, of course, there's a lot more to. I took a year to prepare. You know, of course, there's a lots of stuff, and maybe business-wise that you want to, you know, do the whole thing. But yeah, I think most of it is in the mind. You know, the mind tells you it's not possible. The fears of the mind. I had a lot of fears, even talking to the teacher of the principal of my children's school. I was kind of afraid. My wife said, come on, let's go talk to this guy. She dragged me along like, okay, let's do this. But I wanted to wait until the last moment, you know, because I was maybe afraid of confrontation from the system. Like, who do you think you are? You cannot just take your kids out of school, right? So I was afraid of opposition. But yeah, so that's something that you kind of push through. And that is actually a part of my work when it comes to working through your inner process. So yeah, I mean, I would say follow the trail, follow the breadcrumbs.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. David, how can we support you? Where can we find you? Where can we find your beautiful podcast?
Well, right now I do everything in Dutch. So you can find me on Instagram on David Pieters. That's the only platform I'm active, and you can listen to my podcast, and most of them are in Dutch. However, I have a few English episodes, or if anybody wants to talk to me or maybe like work with me, whatever, they're welcome to come, and I can work with anybody, of course. And I have a website, but it's in Dutch. You have to Google Translate it.
Well, I will put all the links and everything underneath this anyway for people to find it. And for all the Dutchies, absolutely go follow David's beautiful content. David, thank you so much for your time. I really loved our chats.
Thank you. That was good. It was very good. You pulled out, you know, what's beautiful. It's good because you pulled it out of me. See, okay. I think sometimes people forget that it's actually because of you, I was able to say what I say. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not just like, oh, it's like a co-creation. I see it many times. Like sometimes you need this other person to pull the words out of you. It's there, but I would never have said it unless somebody asks the questions. Right? So
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.